Thank you. Simon Knott, Principal BKK Architects. I'll just introduce Deb Adams there too, who's Senior Associate with us and was Project Architect on this and vital cog in the wheel. This was a collaboration a real collaboration. Lots of people talk about that, but it certainly was between the client, very highly engaged client, and ACMI, who really set a vision for what this museum might be. Us and Razorfish, who are an international exhibition and experience design company based primarily in New York and the UK. We'd firstly like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, traditional custodians of the land on which we stand today. It's really important and was an important part of this project as well. I really want to talk first about the urban proposition here. I think it's a much loved part of Melbourne, Fed Square, and this really was dealing with that. The original sort of scheme for Fed Square was actually bringing the laneways through and creating these internal laneways through the buildings. What had happened over time, and really this building was never designed for ACMI, it wasn't a purpose built for it, it sort of had bits and pieces and was kind of added to over time, and the sense of that kind of direction through the middle of the Alfred Deakin building had been lost. There's also a proposal for a new super stop as part of the metro works here and crossing. It's quite convoluted to get down here from Russell Street if you've ever done it anyway, so it's about re-establishing that primary entry on Flinders Street. And halfway, or not even halfway, about a third of the way through, a heritage protection was put on. I think you'd probably be aware of that, and through the Apple Store process was put on Fed Square, so we had to contend with that. Although it wasn't really a problem for us because we were very highly engaged with Don Bates and Lab about what we're going to do here, and we really wanted it to be part of a celebration of the original architecture of Fed Square. We gutted the 2 floors of ACMI, pretty much. There's a few little bits left over, you can see of white that were left over. One of the major components of what was redoing this whole permanent exhibition space, it was called Screen World previously. Famously, its most up-to-date piece of technology was an iPhone 3, so you can see sort of how far it was kind of out of date already, and an idea about how that might be progressed and what that experience might be. That's certainly part of what we're presenting today as well. The bookstore gift shop was put down onto Flinders Street to be able to activate that corner, and this major kind of new access way was put through the middle of it. You can see it here on this upper level plan, this living stair, and I'll come to that in a minute. New reception areas, a major new food offering, Karen Martini's, that went from a pretty sort of ordinary cafe to a full restaurant, licensed right throughout. That was really important, that you can actually take food and use it right throughout the whole building, but it also sells popcorn and choc tops and stuff for the cinemas as well. Redid the cinemas upstairs, a major new corporate entertaining area, but function space can be used for multiple events, which they never had before. An education zone, which was really important, to have a lot of school groups there, and it wasn't really catered for within the existing design. Black Box Theatre. Something we're really proud of was bringing the Digital Preservation Lab. They have a huge archive of film, bringing it out of the basement and up into where it can be viewed. So you can see people restoring film, digitising film, working with that collection, and then a temporary gallery here. That major access way through, celebrating that atrium, really opening up. This project is as much about editing as it is an additive project, about celebrating the heritage of Fed Square. This idea of the third space, this space between home and work, a space where you can dwell. Dwell time within the gallery is very important. Lots of people would go to the cinemas but wouldn't really know there was any other part of ACMI. So it's allowing people both a sort of museum respite, spaces to stay within there, but you also might go there and just hang out. So these kind of ideas, an urban lounge here. The stair is not just an access way through, it has lots of spaces to pause within it, take your phone. Sorry, I should go back to that actually. It's really opening up this, and the architecture of this could not be seen previously from that lower level, so it's really actually coming back into life. This urban lounge space where it's got places to plug in, hang out. I'll come to that in a minute, the design behind that. They're all very much distinguished, these insertions into the existing architecture. So you can see the ceiling, floors, there's lots of the stone floors are maintained throughout. The original stone, we put new ones in, celebrating their collection of fantastic film memorabilia, but also a lounge space that can be moved around, and all that can be shifted out. This is a multi-platform museum. It's really a world first in what they see as a new type of museum. Galleries aren't just about going and looking at stuff. It's about the watchers, but it's also very much about the makers and the players. Gaming is a huge part of what they do here. And what is film in terms of today, and how we view things on screens, and the portability of screens. So these places we can actually go and do that throughout are really important. The digital preservation lab, as I talked about earlier, someone looking at it and seeing what's happening with that. Education is an important part of that. So the engagement is extensive. It's not just about seeing stuff within the gallery itself. This is one of the exhibitions we designed with Razorfish. It's a sound studio, so you can make a soundtrack touching on those objects to a film. Exhibits you can have it, like the gaming exhibits. You can see all this collection of gaming consoles that goes right back through to the 70s, in fact. Major new artworks. This is a Daniel von Sturmer piece that's moving images, collected on his iPhone. We engaged with Indigenous curators of the museum very early on in the process, and a great new work by Vicky Cousins forms the entry into the gallery experience. And this idea of extending the museum beyond the physical boundary is really important, this engagement with the virtual. We designed this there's a whole lot of people involved in this actually, this thing called the Lens, which is an old Viewmaster disc. It's designed around that you can actually tap onto all the exhibitions and extend that experience beyond the physical exhibition space, take it home, you can download things you've made in there, but you can also see how your experience there might extend beyond that, so you can go and see films, other things related to the content that you've actually seen within the museum. It actually encourages repeat visitation. This is an example of how we've looked at some of the old parts of Fed Square. They have these bent kind of coffers that house all the services and lighting in them. We've created our own ones in the new places. They're these circular versions of those that are based on an idea of seeing in film. This urban lounge was working with Indigenous curators and our own sort of interest in kind of extending the native flora and fauna. The landscape idea of Fed Square is very much about the desert, but how we bring another colour tones through it, and how we're looking at actual film and how this is Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, compressed into one single image of colour. And we developed our own custom fabric for this really important piece. The gift shop, which actually a place which feels quite soft and at home. You can see here the floor differences between the original stone and the new stone of our new insertions into it. But and here again, where an old stair was removed through here and it was reversed around, so we would celebrate that within the actual the interiors of the architecture. And the branding is really important as well. They all go hand in hand. And also celebrating how the gallery might, even though the original sort of proposals was maybe create sort of more of an external appearance to the gallery, but that was sort of kiboshed by the heritage protection on it. But I think in some ways what we did do was then start to bring that back into a much more, something more aligned with the ACMI, which was this idea of sort of lit signage, and there's actually going to be a screen going on this side too with art pieces working on it. So it becomes more of a digital experience externally than a physical one. And that allows the Fed Square architecture to sink through.